Welcome to the Second Press podcast, a wine-ish podcast hosted by Brad Horn and Dan Kirby.
I do see light at the end of the tunnel, but without trying to be, too cliched about it, it looks like a pretty long tunnel.
That's such a good answer. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's a fucking long tunnel.
Hi, Dan. Episode 13.
Hello, mate. We're recording this in the afternoon during the day. We normally record at night, everyone. This is afternoon. It's nice and sunny outside the window. It's nice now that you've got a real job, mate.
It is. Yeah, sorry, mate. I've got a real job now, so I've got to start doing recordings when I can, when I'm not working.
Yeah.
How's life, though, mate? Good?
Yeah, good. Just had, we'll touch on it later, but just had a really busy weekend of tastings and shows and stuff. So, yeah, super busy. Yeah.
Should we crack on with the wine trade news?
Let's go. Let's see what's in the news this week, buddy. Where are we? Where do you want to start?
Let's go, mate. I'm going to start with the drinks business. Patrick Smith writes, champagne on course for the earliest harvest ever.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's saying 15th of August or something. That's literally like 4 weeks away.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
I'm sure aren't they usually on holiday in August, like these guys?
Yeah, the French, if you've worked in the wine trade for more than a year, you know that France shuts down in the middle of August for 3 weeks. They're all going to have to come back off their holidays early to start picking the grapes.
They are not going to be happy.
They are not going to be happy in the slightest. But they also think it's going to be a real bumper crop. So they'll have lots to do. They can't have an easy return from their holiday. They're going to be processing loads of grapes this year. So bumper crop, early crop, and no summer holiday for the French this year.
What does that make for quality? Will it, during the quality, quantity, is there a bit of touch and go there?
It's a tricky one. Quality is subjective, isn't it? But
yeah.
if the producers are looking at it from like a chemistry point of view, they're looking at how quickly was flowering and bud burst, all that sort of stuff. They're looking at the sugar levels. They're looking at phenolic ripeness. They're looking for balance and acidity and freshness. And you know what? They're just setting the picking date as and when all those things are as close to being in balance as they want. And it just so happens that this year it's super, super early.
I know a few producers. I'm going to reach out to them and ask them what they think about the quality of this year's harvest, not just the quantity. I will do that for you guys.
And we need to get Tom Houston back on the show. He's my font of knowledge on anything champagne.
We do. We will get him back on. Now we're over to the Harpers. Oliver Catchpole. Again, Oliver.
We love Oliver.
Oliver, I do love Oliver as well. Whispering Angel creator invests in premium alcohol-free brand that we do know. We've had him on the show.
This is Matthew. Matthew Jukes had him on the show.
Whispering Angel have invested.
Yeah, Jukes Cordialities. Matthew, we've had him on the show. And instead of Whispering Angel doing their own low alcohol stuff, which I can completely see why they wouldn't want to do that, instead, they've just invested into Matthew Jukes and are going to grow and help his range of non-alcoholic drinks grow. I think it's a cool idea.
I think it's a really good idea because I think some of these non-alcoholic wines, some are okay, some are pretty damn bad. Like really. So I think like investing in a drink that actually is not wine, is something different, is tasty, and can probably fits with the sort of brand and lifestyle that Whispering Angel, Rock Angel.
I think so, because some of those brands, like the obvious thing to do is take the brand you know and do an alcohol-free version of that.
Yeah.
And actually, like, I'm not always 100% sure that that's the best thing for a wine brand to do.
No.
And so by just aligning yourself with something that's totally different and investing in it and being part of that journey, then that's a nice way of sort of having a link to something alcohol-free while not saying, hey, we're going to start making Whispering Angel Zero or something.
Yeah. And they're good as well.
Yeah. And they're nice drinks, yeah. What would you call Whispering Angel alcohol-free? Would you have a clever name for it?
No Angels?
I'm going to think of a funny name for that.
Guys, on the Substack, let us know what you think the non-alcoholic Whispering Angel will be called. Every answer's a good one.
Yeah, every answer's a good one. Well, that'll be fun. We'll see what people say. And then we've got one more thing, haven't we?
One more. WSTA, the Wine Society CEO gets a seat on the board. So Steve Finland, CEO of the Wine Society, is on the board at the WSTA. Used to be at Marks & Spencer's, Gaps, Clark's. He's worked across different industries as well. So actually, I think having someone like that on the WSTA board, probably a good thing.
He seems like a good operator because when I saw Steve as the CEO a few years ago, they announced Steve joined the Wine Society. he kind of come from not necessarily a wine background specifically. Like he wasn't a wine guy, but he seems to have done quite a good job at Wine Society. So I think it's interesting that WSTA are bringing in voices from like experienced, industry and trade background, alongside people like Steve, who are super like commercially focused. So,
and I think that's what Miles says. Miles Bill's chief executive said that having someone like Steve on the board really just shows we are diversifying, looking outside the box at how to help the trade.
Well, I mean, speaking of all of that, this week's interview is with Andrew from Woodwinters. We take the wine biz to shreds in this interview. It's, there's some bits where we sort of don't talk politics, but there are also some bits where we're, like talking about the honest realities of how the wine trade actually works with someone that's been in it for a long, long time.
I really do think this one is a good one. And we do shoot the shit, as Dan likes to say, and we really put the trade to rights, but in actually a really, really great way and actually a fun, friendly way. So listen to this, guys. Let me know what you think. Andrew Johnson, thank you so much for joining us on the Second Press podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, Andrew, your journey into wine, where did it all begin? Where did it all start for you, this love affair of wine?
Circuitous route. To give you very brief history, I studied classical music, went to uni, was going to stay in the classical music business for the rest of my life, guaranteed, nothing else I was going to do. Life has other plans, it would appear.
It's amazing to me how many of our guests have a musical background. It really is. We've got loads of other guests that we've kind of interviewed that are coming on, and we spoke to Jamie and a whole bunch of other people. They've all got like really good musical backgrounds. This is a common thread between the pod.
Well, and of course, if you ever worked at Obbins, then you were always into music. It's kind of, was it music first and then wine, or wine first and then music? Difficult to say, but yeah. So I was in music. Cut a long story short, I was made redundant one day, needed a job, got a job as an estate agent, thought I was going to do that for like 6 months, but the money was so damn good in the kind of mid-90s, you could literally just sit on your backside and the money just rolled in and you worked not very hard. And
that's
so
much like the wine industry, Andrew, yeah?
Oh yeah, it's almost the same. And then, of course, I realized I didn't want to sell properties for the rest of my life. No disrespect to estate agents. And so I took a bit of a sabbatical, about sort of 9 months or so. And at the time, I had a friend who worked for the Wine Society. And just every time I talked to him, I was just absolutely fascinated by wine. I just couldn't get enough kind of information. So at the end of the day, I took the plunge and worked for Obbins, started on a, peanut salary, but, loved it. I was there in the sort of Castell days, so it was kind of maybe the glory days were a little bit over, but it was still, fun and there were lots of good wines. And so I worked for Obbins for about 3 years, worked myself, up to sort of manager, had a really good time, and then moved up to the Big Smoke and worked for, another major importer, and the rest is history. But I didn't drink wine properly until I was in my late 20s, almost 30. So wine was never a part of my life. It was such an unexpected kind of turn. And now, much like the musical world, I can't imagine not being here, but, probably 5 years from now, I'll be a tennis coach. Who knows?
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that. You as a tennis. Are you a tennis buff, mate? Or are you?
I do love tennis. And I do play tennis.
Okay.
Not as well as I would like to, like most people who play sport, on an amateur level. But yeah, tennis is my thing.
So obviously moving to the smoke, mate, and obviously now you're at Woodwinters, and talk to us about Woodwinters if people don't know Woodwinters.
So Woodwinters was started by Doug Wood and his then wife Cara Winters, hence the name Woodwinters. People always think it's Woodvintners or something, but it's just the amalgamation of two surnames. So Doug started that just over 20 years ago and was just a wine shop up in the Bridge of Allen. And then slowly he realized that if he wanted to sort of build the business, probably just having a shop wasn't really going to cut it. So he started to sell to local restaurants. And although we do have 3 shops in Scotland, 75% of what we do is wholesale. So that's really what we sort of are. So we've moved from, a wine shop and then a wine shop that does wholesale to now kind of, trying to be a proper agency house.
But that's wholesale all over the UK now, isn't it?
It is, yes. So Doug approached me 9 years ago after I left Armit Wines and said, look, I need to set up an office in London. And so Doug and I went into business together. For those of you who don't know, Woodwinters, about 55% of our portfolio is Italian. So Italy is what we really sort of concentrate on. We don't call ourselves an Italian specialist, but that's the best and biggest thing that we do. And then we're now trying to kind of put a spotlight on a few other regions. So I love South Africa.
You've got some really cool South African producers as well. Like, you've got some really cool ones.
Yeah, there was, if you remember back in the day, there was the, new wave South African tasting, which was amazing. And then obviously there comes a point where there's the second wave. And we've maybe sort of picked up a bunch of the sort of second wave kind of producers. There's probably now even, you could probably say, a third wave. Last time I was at Cape Wine, there was, another bunch of, really young winemakers in their kind of, early and mid-20s who are, now chasing after, all the big guys. So I think there's definitely been a kind of, three, probably waves of different kind of age groups. And, as we know, South Africa arguably is the most dynamic place for making wine at the moment. I'm not saying because I know other people think there are great things happening in Australia or, in, USA or what have you. But honestly, you look at the South Africans, every time any of us spend time with them, they're such fun. There's such dynamism. There's, just an amazing sense of camaraderie, but also just really exciting wines at affordable prices, which, everyone's enjoying.
And you said camaraderie there, and I think that sort of helps with that excitement, because they're all learning from each other. They're all trying new things. Try this, try that. And I think that really helps when you want to build an industry that actually is exciting. When you're a closed book and I think people just think, oh, I don't really want to know that. But when you have that camaraderie and that team spirit that they have, I think it makes it much more exciting.
A lot of the winemakers have all worked in each other's cellars as well. So they're like do harvests or, the up and coming like second, third waves. They're all like, we're assistant winemakers for the first wave. Like they've all worked for each other. It's really cool.
It's an absolute masterclass in how you turn something that's essentially nothing into what it is now. In 2010, if you went to a nice restaurant in London, they'd have Hamilton Russell, Me Last Rubicon, and maybe a Sauvignon Blanc from someone else, and that was it.
Yep.
And in literally 10 years, they transformed the region, and that's planting new vines, making new wines. In like 10 years, totally transformed it. And they did it through We Are Stronger Together. I'm not trying to be all sort of hippie about it, but, they really, really were. They traveled in packs, they got, drunk with all the sommeliers in, Amsterdam and London and Japan and New York together. And it was just so much fun. And if you ask any South African producer, oh, what do you think of so-and-so's wines? Oh, yeah, they're brilliant. Love them. Brilliant.
Yeah.
You almost never hear a bad, word. And I think it's a real lesson to be learned by other regions that are maybe, struggling. I hope I don't upset anyone, but, I do a bit of work in sort of Greece. You try and get, more than 2 or 3 Greek people working together, good luck. Good luck with that.
I did one of those like masterclass tastings hosted by an MW a couple of years ago. And it was the wines of Greece was the sort of theme. And they went to the extent that the generic body representing wines of Greece, they couldn't over-represent any of the individual producers because of some people didn't want to play by the rules and some people did. And so what they had to do is the wines all turned up with labels covering all the labels up.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
So like plain white labels all over the bottles, front and back, and they were like, we can only host the masterclass based on grape variety and style, but we can't be seen to be promoting any one or any of the other wine producers. So we had to, I tried to peel all the labels off, fucked all the labels up. And so none of the text sheets told you what producers they were. It was insane.
There were a few other buyers there, and we said to them, you do this again, we're not turning up. It's absolutely bonkers.
Andrew, so as a buyer, when you go out to these events, what are you looking for? Because obviously I've never bought wine. Dan has. What are you looking for? Like, if people don't know, when you're going to these events, what are you looking for? Because it sounds quite daunting to me. Like, you've got to choose wines for a bigger selection of the population.
It is. I mean, ultimately, of course, you're going to try and sell wines that you love and that resonate with you. For me, the toughest thing is when you find a wine that you really like, but maybe you don't love it, and it's just being able to say no to something that's really tasty and cool and interesting. But you then have to think, do I need this in my portfolio? Is it going to, sell? The easiest thing, as we all know, or you can imagine, is to buy, really cool, expensive wines, esoteric wines. But at the end of the day, stock is cash. And if all your cash is just held up in stock that's not selling, you're in trouble. So ultimately, it's my job, if I sell to whoever it is, to a sommelier, to a retailer, to the wine society, is to sell that story and the quality and the price to them. And so it's this kind of trickling effect. The winery's trying to tell me why I should buy their wine. I'm then telling, the sommelier or the retailer why they should buy my wine. And then they tell the, customers. So it's trying to have something that has integrity, but ultimately something that you just really believe in, because it is 10 times easier to sell a wine that you really believe in. But then you also have to be relevant to sommeliers. They're like, well, why should I buy from you? It's like, I can buy Sancerre or Malbec or Picpoul from anyone. So what else do you have that's interesting? So that's when you have to then find things that have a little bit of a story. So like today, there was the Old Vine Conference, and one of our wines there was the Paris Farming Community wines, which I think is one of the most fascinating and really interesting projects that I've seen in Greek wine, in a very long time, if not sort of ever. Yeah. So it's finding those things. And although you would say Monemvasia and Mandelaria from Paris is pretty niche, it's actually sold really well.
But you have to have your basics covered though as well.
100%.
Like, that was your point. Like, if, as a somm, or particularly on trade, they're like, well, taking on a new supplier might be quite tricky. And so you're like, well, I can't just get all the weird wacky stuff from you. I need something that I can order 10, 15 cases of a month so that I've got something to add every day. And I can add on little bits of the weird stuff. So you have to have that breadth of portfolio.
Yeah, and I think you also have a lot of what we would call fighting wines. If you want to deal with a big hotel, you have to have banqueting wines. And maybe you're not going to get super excited about those, but that's probably for a buyer one of the bigger challenges, is finding really cool wine at that entry level price. Anyone can go and find something interesting from Greece at 50 quid a bottle. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I always loved it. I always loved it when you found something that was like, looked cool, tastes fantastic, and then you're like, oh, go on and tell me how much it is. And they were like, yeah, it's €1.90. And you're like, yes!
Winning.
I can do something with it.
Can I sign the contract before someone else comes?
Yes. Yeah. I was like, oh my word. Like those little under the radar co-ops or someone like that, you're just like, oh, this is an absolute godsend, these wines here.
And, as we know, costs are just piling up, be it duty or transport or what have you. So, trying to find wines that, can be on a restaurant list, let's say under £40, a bottle, and I'm talking like central London kind of wine list, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
As well as I said, curating. I mean, I do, buying is really like curating a list. If you own a wine shop, you're curating a list. If you're a sommelier, you're doing the same. If you, have an exhibition at a museum, you're curating a list. And that's really what we're doing. We're trying to create something that people can kind of understand, so people can go, oh yeah, Woodwinters, I know roughly what they're about.
And so the interesting question there then is, I always find and like talking to like agents and distributors, because if you're an indie buyer buying for a wine shop, you can always pull together loads and loads of wines. But how easy do you find it to sort of take on new agencies where there's a level of exclusivity and like you have to like represent them? Do you have to like build that commercial partnership together first? Like, how integral is that to the buying process?
Yeah, it's becoming tougher and tougher because we've all got, real serious pressures on cash flow, money, what have you. If I take on, and I'm not trying to teach you guys how to suck eggs, but if I take on a winery, ideally they'll say, Andrew, you need to pay me within, 60 days. So if I'm shipping from South Africa, I'm basically paying in advance, because by the time it gets to me and clears customs, that's gone. I then need a month for my, team to go out and sample the wine. No disrespect to all the lovely sommeliers in London, but it'll take them at least a month before they order the wine. And then I'm probably giving them 30 days from the end of the month. So I'm not seeing a penny for 6 months when I take on a new agency.
Yeah.
once you've got that kind of pull through rate, then, hopefully things make sense. But bringing on a new agency is a massive pressure on cash flow. It's literally whatever that PO is, 4 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, that is just cash gone out of your business for 6 months plus. So it's a real investment taken on new wineries, which is why you've really got to believe in it, and you really got to believe that your sales team are going to believe in it and sell it. I can go and buy lots of lovely wines, but if my team think it's a pile of, horse crap, then it's not going to sell.
And we've spoken about this before. It is actually the team need to love the wines as well. So you've got to know what your team's sort of like as well, with the team that are going to go out to these soms.
I try to be as collaborative as I can. I mean, of course, lots of bosses have to make, certain decisions, but where possible, I will taste those wines with the team, try and get them infused if I'm, excited by them. And I would say 95% of the time, it's a good response. Maybe that's because I've employed people that are on a similar kind of wavelength to me, or maybe I just look really mean and pissed off and they just agree with me because, I pay their salary.
Andrew, I've never seen you mean and pissed off. Never, ever.
But yeah, I think you've got to bring everyone along. Even like when we do sales targets, I try to get the sales team to say what they think their sales target should be for next year. If there's no buy-in, then it's just like pushing water uphill. Your team's got to be a bit excited, and especially at the moment, because it's really tough.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Before we get to the fun stuff, mate, the future of wine in the UK. I know it's a big one, it's a big question, but for you?
Everybody needs to drink more wine, and like now.
Yeah.
I was in a restaurant that will remain nameless the other day, a very large restaurant, probably at least 100 covers plus. And you could it's a very open restaurant, and it was water at lunchtime, water, Coke, glass of wine, water, Coke, glass of wine. Definitely at the moment, things have changed. Lunchtime drinking has been decimated, and then people are going out less. We've heard all the horror stories and restaurants sort of closing. We had at least 15 accounts just closed last year for no particular reason other than they just had enough and handed the keys back, to the landlord. And that can't continue, although it looks like for the immediate future, it is going to continue. And that just means there's less people drinking and there's less places that are going to be selling wine. To what extent that will be, what the actual numbers will be, how many restaurants, will close, I don't know. But I get probably a text from my colleagues and friends every week, of a kind of relatively well-known restaurant, closing. So there's no point pretending that we're not in a pretty brutal environment. And we all, like I was saying with the South Africans, we all need each other. You need your Inotrias and your Bibendums and, and the smaller, people. It's a whole ecosystem where we kind of need each other. So I don't wish anyone any, ill. But at the moment, it's a little bit survival of the fittest. So you've just got to try and be better than the rest, whether that's the wines you offer, the customer service, or whatever it is. But you've got to find a way for people to want to work with you, and that's not easy.
Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel, if there was a tunnel?
I do see light at the end of the tunnel, but without trying to be too cliched about it, it looks like a pretty long tunnel.
That's such a good answer. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's a fucking long tunnel.
It's one of them Italian tunnels that go on forever.
And my bloody car's broken down, and there's no petrol for 20 miles. You can't sugarcoat it. We all need to be positive, and we all need to find a way to support each other and what have you. But it's all the kind of financial and structural indicators just are there to make it bloody tough. I could see it not just in my team, but other people that I kind of know in the trade, especially at the end of last year. I could just see the tiredness in their eyes, and I can see the fun being sucked out of it. Like wine is a great thing to be working in, but when you're just in like pure sales where you see half of your accounts closing and it's just harder and harder to get listings, it really does take the fun out of it. We have nice moments. We have our little trips. We go out for nice lunches or dinners. Maybe I go out for more of those than my team do. Sorry, team. But it's a lot of the fun is being sucked out of it. So it's kind of like we just feel like we're in the trenches, and it's just like head down. There's a lot of kind of meetings that we'd love to be having, but we're not having them because we're just like, go and see your accounts, get stuff done, and we'll do all the, fiddly stuff and fancy stuff next week. So that's kind of a little bit of a précis of how we feel at the moment.
Well, I'm going to go to some fun stuff now, mate.
Do it.
Also say, if anyone can go for lunch with Andrew, you must. He's a great lunch buddy. He's a great crack, great fun. So if you ever get a chance, say yes when he asks you to lunch.
Bring back the wine trade Friday lunches. Come on, like they were just legendary.
We need to. A region that you're really excited about can be from anywhere in the world. You think actually that no one's really talking about, but you're really excited about?
I mean, I guess people are talking about Greece now. I think Greece really does excite me. Greece in some ways reminds me of South Africa in that there's the younger generation of winemakers, who have traveled. They've tasted other wines. They've got their field of vision is much, wider. They're not making wine like their dad made and their grandfather made. They didn't just go to Athens and learn to make wine by numbers, and now they're, getting rid of a lot of the, international varietals and really realizing that the indigenous grape varieties is where they're going to have way more success. What sommelier do I know that's desperate for a Chardonnay from, Naxos or a, Syrah from Santorini? Like, it doesn't exist. That doesn't mean that if you don't have amazing soil in Greece that cries out for Syrah or Cabernet or Chardonnay, that you shouldn't be allowed to do that. Everyone else can grow it, so why can't you? But I think really the future for Greece in the medium term is things, of course, like assyrtiko, but of course Zina Mavro, assyrtiko, or Monovazir and Mandelaria from the Cyclades, I think is doing incredible, things and really, really exciting wines. And I think it's the younger generation now, and I think now there's a real vitality, and energy to the wines and to the kind of wine scene. So I think Greece is really, really exciting. We can maybe talk about this later. I've got a little Greek project that I'm trying to
Here we go. Is this a podcast exclusive?
It is, kind of. I have set up a company called the Greek Wine Scholarship, which is basically going to be a competition for the on and the off trade, just to try and get sommeliers and buyers for a certain period of time, be that 2 months or 3 months, just to really showcase what's exciting and new about Greece. And then there'll be about 5 winners. They'll all go on a lovely sort of paid trip to sort of Greece, to really sort of deep dive into what's happening, in Greece, just to sort of drum up a little bit of, excitement. There were, as I said earlier, I'm an old Binions, and we had the, lovely Mr. Daniels, who really tried to push Greek wine.
Yep.
And he did a valiant job, but it never quite kind of broke through, into the mainstream. And I'm not saying Greece is going to break into the mainstream in a kind of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc Pinot Grigio way, but I think it certainly deserves to be several tiers higher up in terms of its support. And I start to see that now. If you look at sort of wine lists now, certainly across London, there's way more references from Greece.
And it's a place we've been going on holidays for years. So why shouldn't there be more Greek wines on lists? So I think you might be right, though. I think indigenous varietals, they'd be the ones you're trying. So I think championing indigenous varietals is really important.
So Andrew, how do SOMs and people get onto this new Greek scholarship? When's it launching? How do they apply?
I have a partner in crime, Effie Tsonova. Obviously, Effie is she's Greek, but I have a really soft spot for Greece. Like you were saying, Brett, I went to Greece all my childhood holidays.
Yep, me too.
Greece just has a really kind of strong kind of pull for me, kind of romantically and historically. So we're just trying to work out whether we can do some mini launch just to get people interested this year, or whether it's going to realistically have to be the spring of next year. But I just think as great as all the PR companies that, Wines of Greece kind of employ. They just need a little bit more sort of help just to sort of push Greece, just above the parapet. So I really think it's kind of interesting, and I really think they deserve, our support.
And as Andrew said, then we love PRs too. You mentioned it already, mate. You obviously like tennis, but what else do you do outside of wine?
Cooking has always, when I grew up, I grew up just with my mother, and I got to a certain age and my mum said, right, I'm not doing all the cooking and washing up. So you either wash up or you cook. She said, I don't care which one you do, but you've got to do at least one of them some of the time. So obviously a young boy, the idea of washing up, dishes is not very attractive. So I subjected my mum to some horrendous meals probably at the beginning. I remember Matheson's pork sausage, sweet corn, hoisin sauce, and Charwood's egg noodles being thrown at her on a weekly basis, bless her.
Unbelievable. But at least she had to wash it up, so
that's it. But as I was showing you earlier, I got a little bit of garden space because we moved to St Albans a couple of years ago because, I work in the wine trade, so I don't have £2 million to buy a nice house in London. But, we bought, the pizza oven and, the ceramic egg and all that kind of, palaver. But I would rather spend 3 hours, cooking in the kitchen than half an hour in the sink. And probably one of my favorite things is just having people around for dinner. Like, I love cooking for people. I find that very rewarding and fun, and I just think it's a lovely thing to do. And it's
you are an entertainer.
And also, like, I used to do, I did music. It's now my creative kind of outlet. So I don't really play. I mean, I play a little bit with some friends, once in a blue moon, but I don't, I don't really play much anymore. And I was never going to be a performer. When I did work in the music business, I was more, music administration. But cooking now is my way of kind of being creative, and it's my way of kind of unwinding. So it could be Japanese, it could be Indian. Of course, has to be Italian a lot of the time. My lovely wife is Italian, so if she doesn't get, pasta every other day, there are, grumbles.
Maybe when I see her, I know she hasn't had pasta.
That's it, yeah. If she's smiling, she had pasta.
Yeah, nice.
I love that. And before I let you go, Andrew, your death row wine, the last bottle of wine you'd love to have before we all say goodbye.
I think it would be there are two great varieties that I love probably above. I mean, it's always difficult because you can't, it's like having, like 5 children. You can't really choose. But if you have to, then, behind closed doors, you can whisper your favorites. But I do. I love assyrtiko. I think it's just one of the most exciting things. But I think some of the great wines of Piedmont have kind of touched me in a way that maybe other wines haven't. And my favorite producer, again, no disrespect to the producers I currently work with, but the old wines of Bruno Giacosa were just unbeatable. When they were at their best, there was, when you get a wine that's perfect and then there's just a little bit of fairy dust sprinkled on top of the perfection, the wines are like that. So a bottle, let's say, 1990s or 1980s Giacosa, Barolo or Barbaresco, that's what I would take to the grave with me, I think, if I could have anything.
I think we were going to predict that, weren't we?
Yeah, I had a feeling. I had a feeling
that might be the one. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for great champagne if someone else is spending their money.
Right, here's my hot take on this question. We asked this question quite a lot of people, and I think most people that answer this question would like to say champagne, but they try and pick something different because champagne's too obvious. But champagne is almost everyone's like, oh, fuck it. If I'm going to have one last glass of wine, I'm going to have a bottle of Dom. No problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what most people are like, yeah, I'll probably go for champagne. But I can't pick champagne.
What I really love is when you have, like, a nice kind of 15-year-old bottle of whatever it is, Comte de Champagne or, top prestige cuvées, they really, really generally, deliver.
They are expensive, but you never feel like that's a rubbish glass of wine.
You can buy the best champagne for less than you can the top Burgundies. You try buy Le Montrachet or Pucelle from, Le Fleuve. Like, that's a lot more expensive than vintage Krug, I guarantee you. We're very lucky we go to all these lovely dinners. And when someone pulls out, 1985 Krug, yeah, you get pretty excited.
Thanks for saying my birth year as well, Andrew.
Oh, well, I've got a bottle set aside for you so next time we meet.
Thank you, mate.
Next time you're out for dinner, yeah?
We'll have 85 Krug and 85 giacosa.
Oh, winning. Everyone's coming. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
Cheers, Andrew.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers, guys.
That was a really great interview, Dan. Andrew's a really top guy. And actually, as you said, really just putting the trade to rights.
It's nice to sort of actually sit and get under the skin of the wine trade sometimes. We've had a lot of really nice people in different bits of the biz, but Andrew's the first kind of retailer, indie, just really talking about the things that actually are affecting the wine biz. And
being honest about it as well. Being honest about it.
Yeah. It's so important to just look at the realities of it.
Absolutely. And what have you been up to, mate?
Mate, so I've been super busy with, I was at the Cambridge Wine Festival. So it's the same people that run the South Coast Wine Festival, which is in about a month or so. But the Cambridge Wine Festival is in the grounds of Corpus Christi College. And so it's the first time in 800 years or something since the college been established that they've let an outside company come and do a thing. So I think they just basically borrowed the marquee at the end of graduation week and then ran a little wine festival in the garden. It was beautiful. It was an amazing place. I put some photos on my social.
You did. I saw those, mate. It did look absolutely fantastic.
Looked amazing, yeah. How about you? What have you been up to?
Obviously watching the football like everyone else in the country.
So what time did you get home this morning from the pub, mate?
4:35.
Yeah, it's pretty good going, isn't it?
They put it back an hour. It was meant to be 1 o'clock. It was 2 o'clock.
Oh.
I couldn't go home to come back. So hopefully, if you did see it, yeah, it was a great game. Enjoying the World Cup, especially with the kids when they can watch it and stuff.
You love the sport. So instead of watching the football last night, I was at the waterfront in Norwich, down and dirty, punk gig with a band called Free Throw. Love them. 40-year-old guy in a mosh pit. I don't give a shit, mate.
Talking of sport as well, Balfour,
lovely. I love that.
Both from Wines and Balfour sent me the sparkling. I will open it for the next England game and give it a go.
I love that. I love that we mentioned it on the pod. They shared a post of us chatting about both on the pod, and they send you a bottle. Love it. System works.
They do. You never know, mate. They might get you one too. Sorry, it seems to be me getting the bottle.
People will start sending me some bottles eventually, mate. Slow and steady.
Love that, mate. Great to chat to you this week, mate. Thanks for everyone that's watching, listening, watching this on Instagram as well, watching some of our little clips we do for the news. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, I'm enjoying posting those. We've got a couple more up our sleeve. Yeah. And some bits that don't make it into the show go on Instagram too now.
They do indeed.
Cool. Well, we'll see you next time.
See you soon, mate. Bye.